Welcome to Economics 4.4. Today we're going to talk about government regulation and competition. Our words today, the first one we have is predatory pricing. This is when you are going to sell a product below cost for a short period of time to drive out competitors out of the market. So this would be like an example, maybe I'm a gazillionaire and I've started a pizza joint and I'm going to offer pizza for 50 cents a slice. Well, I'm going to end up putting all the other pizza places out of business because they're not going to be able to sell pizza that cheap. And because I'm a gazillionaire, I've got money to take a loss. That would be predatory pricing. The government has antitrust laws. And these are laws that encourage competition in the marketplace. They want to go against monopolies and things that discourage competition. So there are going to be laws to encourage that there's competition because, again, competition is good for us as consumers. It drives prices down. A merger. This is when two or more companies join to form a single firm. There have been several mergers. My husband works for Bass Pro Shops, and they recently merged and bought out Cabela's. So now Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop are one company. Deregulation. We've talked about the government will have regulations to promote competition, but then sometimes, just like with anything, it can do good and then start to do bad. And so we would want to deregulate that market or remove that control because they've done their job and now it's starting to harm. Again, we've talked about this. In the United States, we have choices when it comes to your cell phone plan, when it comes to what cell phone, your internet providers. However, we really don't have much of a choice when it comes to cable television. Now, again, cable television, not television, because satellite TV is completely different from cable television. Comcast right now is the only one that does cable. Yes, you have Dish Network, you have DirecTV. Those are satellite. Then you have streaming. That's streaming. It's not cable. So in 2007, Congress passed a law that no company could have more than 30% of the cable TV market. Well, that's a problem. Like for Comcast or in the areas where you had cable TV and there's only one cable TV business, they had more than 30% of the market because they're the only cable TV. Well, they went to court and argued against this regulation because they said, yes, we may be the only cable TV company, but we're not the only TV provider because there's Dish Network, there's DirecTV. Now, we didn't have it in 2007, but now you'd have streaming. People have other options than just Comcast. If Comcast was the only option for TV, this would work. But they argued it's not. Like, we're just a delivery system that's cable. People have other things. So when they removed the 30% limit, that opened the door for the cable companies to try to get a larger share of the market as far as TV service. So let's talk about market power. Monopolies, you've got cable TV companies, Time Warner. They tend to have a lot of power. And, you know, when you have cable TV or you have satellite, like ABC, NBC, CBS, they'll enter into agreements with those companies. And there have been times when you'll see, and they'll have it on there, you need to call your cable company or your satellite provider because ABC is going off the air. I think in 2018 or 2019, ABC went off of Dish Network and people freaked out because they couldn't see The Bachelor or Bachelorette, whichever one, not sure. So here is an ad, looks like this is in New York, protesting when Time Warner blocked a major network from its customers. So the customers were speaking up going, stop, we want that channel back. Here are some key antitrust policies that have been passed by the government. Again, they want to prevent someone from having total market share. You've probably studied this in history, 1911. It was the breakup of the Tobacco Company and Rockefeller Standard Oil Trust. In 1982, there was an AT&T lawsuit. So they broke into 7 regional phone companies because they pretty much controlled the entire country for home phone service and then long distance service. They still retain right now their monopoly on long distance service. But again, now I think you've got some Comcast can do home phone service, although pretty much that's all going completely away. There was an antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft, Google. After the FTC investigated, they agreed to allow competitors certain access to certain one of their patents. So they didn't have, you had to buy this and this and this in order to use Google. This would be the Bell South Company. AT&T, before they were told to break up, controlled the entire United States. And now you can see it's broken up into regions. I've lived only in these 2 regions, so I've had Southwestern Bell, Bell South. Yeah, really didn't see much of a difference other than name. In the 70s and 80s, Congress did some regulation, and then they realized, hey, this regulation now is not promoting competition, it's now reducing competition. So they passed certain laws that deregulated certain industries. And when you deregulate, that means the government's kind of taking their hand out of the industry and not trying to tell the companies what to do. And that can be, the role they play in the market, how much they can charge their customers, several different things. Now, here is when we talk about regulation and deregulation. Both of these are enacted down here. You see, we want to stimulate more competition. Competition is good for us as consumers. It keeps prices down. That keeps inflation down. So when we choose to regulate something, examples would be we enforce antitrust laws. We break up monopolies so they don't have, that market control. Challenge business practices that are going to limit competition, and also block mergers that create unfair market power, like to keep several companies from all merging into one big super company and nobody else can compete in the market. But then when we look at deregulation, okay, one of the first things is to cut regulations that reduce competition. We can regulate something and it increase competition and then it start to decrease. So we would want to remove it. We could eliminate price controls, allowing prices to fall. That could be eliminating price ceilings, price floors. We could remove barriers to entry, allowing new firms to enter the market. Maybe that is, offering more loans so that people can enter. Maybe it is deregulating like what it costs to get into the industry. There can be a multitude of things. But again, both regulation and deregulation are there to promote more competition. They have the same goal. The trucking industry had a lot of regulations. And so when they deregulated it, this led to lowered barriers of entry. When you have truck drivers, and I know this because I worked in the trucking business, you have 2 types. You have your owner-operators, and those are the people, they're truck drivers, and they own their own front part of the 18-wheeler, the cab. And then you have other truck drivers that work for the company, and the company provides the 18-wheelers. So this deregulation allowed a lot of truck drivers to own their own truck, and in a sense, their own business. If they're an owner-operator, they're operating their own business. Deregulation in the airline industry. Look at prices. Back in the 80s, it was almost $475 to fly. We're getting tickets now. I get some $69 one way, $99 one way, a 200 round trip. it was much more expensive. And a lot of that is because they deregulated ticket price. And you can see, like, we're down here paying half the price that we did back in the 80s and 85s. Now, a lot of that, too, has to do with technology. Technology's gotten better. And that is the end of 4.4. Hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you do your homework and start to study for that test. See you for the next lesson.